Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Kelvin Wong, Senior Market Analyst from Oanda. Now, Kelvin, it's always great to have you on the show.
My pleasure, Brian, and good to see you again.
Now, Kelvin, before we get your insights, we're going to take a look at how the numbers stack up across the region. We're going to start with Singapore. The Straits Times Index is down 0.17%. Then we have Bursa Malaysia, which is up 0.19%. Shanghai is down 0.71%. The ASX All Ordinaries is up 0.31%. The Nikkei is closed today for a public holiday. The Hang Seng is up 0.73%, and the Kospi is also closed today for a public holiday. Now, if we look at crypto markets, Bitcoin is at 29,258. It's up 0.53%. And Ethereum is at 1,898. It's down 0.14%. Now, Calvin, what's your view on market performance in the first half of the day?
Okay, so if you look at the Asia markets overall as per se, it seems to me that today is just the second consecutive day on the average of outperformance against the major US stock indices. So you know that last night the major US stock indices fell for the fourth consecutive session if you
Okay.
look at the S&P 500. But very surprisingly interestingly, the ASEAN or the Asia as well as the Asia North Asia stock indices held pretty firmly. So one of the reasons we can actually look at is potentially due to animal spirits, positive animal spirits on the Chinese side of the things. So firstly, last night we have this positive news on one of the China big tech stock, which is Alibaba. So it seems to me that it's getting more concrete that they're actually looking to actually do more further spin-off, or we call it IPO in their various units that are actually okay, sub-units. So they're looking at for a potential US IPO as early as next year for their international online shopping unit that comprises of brands like Lazada and AliExpress. And the second factor to look at is this ongoing US dollar weakness that is pretty much prevalent in the last couple of weeks. Number one, driven by this potential pause in the US Federal Reserve current hiking cycle. And secondly, also this ongoing, we call it potentially failure to extend the US debt limit ceiling when it's potentially coming due in the month of June. So with a weaker dollar, we start to see a kind of a strengthening, a minor strengthening of the Chinese yuan that's actually supporting this we call it positive animal spirits that's been seen in the Asia or ASEAN as well as the ASEAN stock indices.
Now, Kelvin, one of the reasons for the yuan appreciating is that also partly attributed to some very decent numbers out of China with regard to manufacturing and services PMI data.
Okay, so one thing I look at it from the China PMI data, right, is actually, especially the services PMI data, it actually showed a slight tick down in growth, which is quite of a concern right here at this moment in time, because if you look at the last 3 months of growth spurt, we call it a narrative that is in the Chinese economy that has driven, we call it the outperformance of China equities in the first quarter of this year. This narrative seems to be actually dying off. Okay, if you look at the services PMI, you look at the manufacturing PMI as well, both from the Caixin as well as the official. But one thing market seems to be having an expectation is that the policymakers, especially from the central bank PBOC, they may be forced to actually do more, we call it easing of policy, especially if you look at prior to the Golden Week holiday towards, I think, the end of the last week of April, where the monthly Politburo meeting, which consists of, we call it the key government officials that dictate policy making in China, actually emphasizes that more fiscal policy that needs to come hand in hand with monetary policy to actually address this slowdown in domestic growth. So that's a very big statement or bold statement indicating to us that potentially in the months ahead, if we start to see more data that actually start to show a kind of a lackluster growth in China economy, the monetary policy makers in PBOC may be forced to actually loosening their liquidity tight. But I believe that it's still more of a targeted approach rather than an all-out QE approach.
Now, looking ahead to the US, where all eyes are on today's non-farm payroll numbers that were out are going to be out later today. What's your take on this, Kelvin?
Okay, so let's take a look at the screen over here, right? Let me share my screen over here. So definitely today's key data will be on the labor market. So we have non-farm payrolls, right? The estimation of non-farm payrolls is coming at the lower end, below 180K added jobs, below what I call the previous number of 260K. Okay, so what we see over here is if numbers came in below at came in what I call it uh, within consensus of 180K over here, we may start to see what I call a kind of like this dollar downside momentum will actually persist. But however, right, if we start to see a very strong number, we call it a very what I call weak number. My apologies, a very weak number heading into non-farm payrolls. Let's say a number of 150 to 160K, that actually increased the expectation of a rate cut coming into September. So bear in mind, if you look at the latest data after the recent FOMC meeting, the markets based on the CME Fed Watch 2 has indicated close to at least 60% chance of the first rate cut to come into September this year itself. Whilst Powell actually kind of a toned down this expectation of a rate cut. He keep emphasizing that the U.S. Labor market is still in a state of robustness. So definitely, this is one of the key data to actually watch tonight, later at 8:30 p.m., to have a current gauge of what is the status of the U.S. labor market, which could actually impact the expectation on this Fed pivot that is being priced into the markets right now.
Now, Kelvin, on that note, thank you very much for your insights. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brian.
We've been speaking to Kelvin Wong, Senior Market Analyst at Oanda on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. Check out this video and podcast on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. You will also see this on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.